Welcome to the Construction Brothers Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Campbell, and with me, like he is every week, my brother, Eddie Campbell.
What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Eddie, but this week we were talking about becoming an asset for your team. All right, Henry, thank you so much for joining us this week, man. Can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Henry Nutt, and I am with Southland Industries. Been here for 15 years as first a general superintendent, the majority of that time, and now I'm a pre-construction executive, so working the pre-con, helping to win work, and spent 34 years of all that just working in the sheet metal trade for Local 104 here in Northern California, and so been on this journey. I'm an old guy in the business now, and finally have to kind of come to that fruition or truth that I'm one of those guys, hopefully sharing, spreading wisdom and trying to give information to people and help folks not make the same mistakes that I've made, or share some of those lessons learned and giving back to this really important and amazing industry that we're in, construction.
So you've synthesized that in a book. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's the labor of love. It took me 10 years, to write 86, 87 pages, and not because it was tough. Primarily, I wrote this book and took these 7 things initially that was kind of coined as through my own lessons learned and talking to different pre-apprenticeship programs around Northern California, and how they're trying to bring their people into our industry, and the things that I was sharing with them just seemed to be, one, they were very common sense things, I thought, things I learned from my parents, but I found myself saying the same thing over and over again to different students, and it really resonated with them, so much so that when I came into their classrooms, the instructors would say, Henry's going to talk about to you. It was initially like these 4 principles, and it grew over time. And so I just consistently said these same things over and over again, and found that, you know what, I need to put this in a book format and just share it, because although I think it's common sense is not common necessarily. And so I could take for granted that everybody knew this, and everybody didn't. And so I felt like this was important enough to distill it and replicate and put it in the hands of some folks that hopefully can benefit from it.
So real quick, the 7 principles are?
The 7 principles are, and I'm not sure if they're in any order of importance, but it's kind of how I feel like they kind of evolve. And the one being to not despise the day of small beginnings. You got to start somewhere. Everyone has a beginning, and sometimes at that place, people feel neglected, people feel unheard, people aren't recognized. So it's important to know. The next one is to get a mentor. We can't do it alone. We all need some help at some point in our lives, and we need to recognize that when we need someone to step in and support us. Refusing to be a victim. We all have a story. We have a story of why we can't achieve. And if we can get an arsenal of people to stand behind us and support that mindset as well. But we cannot afford to stay in that victimization mode. We got to work hard, number 4. There's nothing that will replace hard work. And you can be the brightest guy in the room, but you can also not work hard and be left behind. So really important to do that. Love what you do. And I say love what you do, or at least like it a whole lot. So many of us don't like our jobs. And so we spend the majority of our lives doing something that we don't like. Just, pause and reflect on that and think about, what does that look like in someone's life when they don't like their job every day? And I think I run into them on the freeway when I'm commuting, because they're always angry. And so it's this recognizing that if you have the opportunity to select something that you actually enjoy, then do that. Put some energy towards that. Learning how to follow. I think every great leader has once had to learn how to follow someone else before they could expect anyone to follow them. And so it's important that we actually learn that and submit ourselves to someone else's leadership and glean from them and what they've done so that we can actually do the same thing at some point. And then knowing the difference between being an asset versus a liability. It's really knowing that that's critical in business. It's critical in all parts of life, but when we talk about business and construction, if you're the asset, then you're the person that sticks around. You're the one going to the next job. You're the one that people find a way to keep you. When you're a liability, you're not needed, So it's recognizing those things. Those are the 7 principles, kind of in a nutshell.
I love it. You're the person not sticking around if you're the liability. That's a great way to put it. So I want to stick on number 7, because I really think that we've gotten a couple questions lately from people coming into the industry, out of college and in the industry, and they're asking, like, what are some of the wisdom or what's some of the advice that you could give to us, at the beginning of our career. And when I read that, I was like, wow, like that's just so perfect. So can you dive into what it means to, being a liability and an asset? Dive into that for us.
So when I think about my journey and different jobs I've been on in my 34 years and being laid off at times or being the one that stuck around and then finally being the one making those decisions of who stays and who doesn't, it really came crystal clear that it's not that I want to simplify or minimize people to being transactional, but it's really as a leader in any industry, it's our job to recognize who's bringing value to our project, to our team, and who's not. Who's the person creating the small leak or the drip that takes away from what we're trying to accomplish. And sometimes we don't know that we're that person. We can look at people and criticize them and then wonder why we're always the one that is excused early, why we're not the one that is being identified as a lead for a particular project. And maybe we're not necessarily being removed from the company, but we're not finding ourselves in a position where we feel like, hey, I got this skill set and I know more than this person. Why am I not the one being selected? And many times it's that we don't want to look in the mirror. We don't want to recognize that there are some flaws or some areas of growth that we haven't identified yet as problems. And because we haven't, we continue to stay in that mode of being that liability in some degree to that particular employer or team. And so some of it becomes down to recognizing, having that ability to become self-aware. We have a saying, you hear, you don't know what you don't know. And I want to really shift that mind thinking and we need to know what we don't know. We need to begin to understand the things that we don't know. We need to become aware so that we can do the work to become aware and become valuable or become more of that asset. So we're walking blindly in our careers and looking for these different goals we have of achievement, but we don't see ourselves doing those things that would help our employer to be better and make more money or to be safer. Then we really are a liability. We're not really that person yet as brings that full set of value to the company. Again, it doesn't mean you're losing your job, but it may mean where you're going to end up 5 years later, and then you find yourself in this circle and you're wondering why you're always the one not being brought to that table. And many times it's easier to criticize and blame and point a finger, but it's much harder to look in the mirror and say, what can I do differently? And that is what I had to do years ago, and I explain that in my book, in regards to being surrounded by people that intimidated me, being the youngest person on a crew all the time, because I got in the trade at 19 years old, and it was a joke. Henry's the kid, right? And so I had to come to terms with the things that I didn't know or why people would see me more as a liability versus an asset. I had to take some initiative. I had to do some internal work and bring some confidence and understand those things and then actually do that, manifest it and show up in that way where people recognize and said, I see I have a leader on my hands. In other words, an asset. And from that, the doors opened for me to really begin to develop, to really hone in on what was important and to continue to bring that value and to be very keen and listening to the things that are being said and not said, and where I feel like, what contribution can I make? And that's what's most important, is that I don't have to be like somebody else. I just got to bring the best version of myself and believe that's enough. And evolve and grow from there, because you're going to always be learning. You're always going to have an opportunity to get more and to get better at whatever it is. But at least you know at a certain stage that here's what's important to my team. I'm going to focus on bringing that, and then shut up, right? I don't need to add anything extra, and then, because that can distort everything you've done when you don't know when to kind of, okay, you did what you're supposed to do. Now stop and allow that to kind of like, marinate with the team. But recognizing that is always going to be something people are looking at. Is this person a liability, or are they an asset? Because we know we don't need liabilities. They're risk. And so find yourself at where that is and how you fit into that, and begin to do the work of becoming an asset by understanding what your team needs.
You're like right on the edge of point 3 there. So refusing to be a victim. And I know Tyler warned you that everything's baseball to me. Like everything goes back to that with me.
It's all baseball, every bit of it.
And so I remember this, right? You got your right fielder in right field, and they miss the ball in the sun. And you got one guy that's out the next practice, and he's working on getting his glove up, figuring out how to work the sun. The other guy's like, stupid sun, it messed me up, So, I mean, I kind of feel like you were brushing up against this that whole time. The opposite side of being self-aware is just saying, I'm a victim. And so, like, how play that out? Like, why is that a big deal?
It gets so old so fast. And I always introduce this kind of conversation with, we all have a story. We all have a reason to say why we can't achieve something. We all have that. We will get people to surround us and celebrate why we can't achieve because they feel sorry for us. And they know our story has been X, Y, Z. And so you won't have any problem getting people to associate and celebrate your definition of why you remain a victim. The problem, obviously, is that you're still a victim and you're still stuck. And so it's recognizing that at some point in life, when does enough become enough? When does it become that, okay, I've suffered in these different areas of my life. I've experienced some damnable things that were unfair. I've been through all these different circumstances. No one in my family has ever achieved this. This can't be possible for me. When do you get tired of accepting that? And does it mean that everything is going to happen the way you want to when you decide to not be a victim? No, it doesn't. You still may have the same circumstances and same issues, but you wake up every morning with an expectation that you're going to make a difference and you're going to do something differently. You're not going to fall down the same trail that you've been on and use the same excuses and reasons why you can't. And as you begin to do that, you gain confidence, you get people that begin to recognize that, and you just open doors for yourself. And so no one wants to hang around the victim. Even other victims, like you're boring me. You're tiring me out here. I got to break out and get someone that has light. I need somebody that like you say, you get mad at the sun for blaming, for not catching the ball, versus recognizing that, okay, what part did I play in not catching the ball? Pretty much all of it. It was my glove and it was the ball and I missed it, right? And so it's recognizing, what can I do differently? How do I adjust my life, my thought process, the friends I hang around, my patterns, whatever it is? We have to become more than what we are. And sometimes it requires us to get around people that help shape us and influence how we think. And so breaking out of cycles, right? Generational issues and mindsets that exist in families. No one's graduated from college. Everybody got divorced in my family. Whatever it may be, it's recognizing that, does that have to be your story? It will be if you just fall into play. It'll easily be, and you'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy because of how you think and talk. But you have the power to also come up against that and say, hey, you know what? I'm trying something different. And I may fail 10 more times in the process, but I'm still not going to quit and allow myself to stay stuck in that place that I used to call my regular life.
How does finding a mentor play into this?
Yeah, that's a great question, and obviously something I address. And one thing I think is important when finding a mentor is, one, to recognize you need one. And again, it's about being self-aware. And I would tell people this: if you're always the smartest person in the circle of your friends, you need new friends. And don't be proud about and feel like you're lofty because, hey, I'm the smartest person in my group. Well, that kind of says a little bit about you. You know, are you just afraid to not be the smartest person, or are you just comfortable at this circle you have that really doesn't stretch you? And it's about wanting more, and it's about recognizing, again, what you don't know. So again, we can't mystify or glorify that phrase, you don't know what you don't know. I really want people that really understand what they don't know so they can begin to say, something's missing. I don't know what it is yet, but I know there's something missing in my circle or sphere of influence. I need people that help stretch me. And so one is just recognizing that I need more. I need someone to expand how I think. I need someone to share insight that I've never been exposed to. I need someone to kind of shake me up in regards to, wow, that's a possible thing. Like, how did you do that? And get excited about something that is not common to them. And is it uncomfortable? Yes, it's scary, possibly, but it's stretching you to be more than what you are. And mentors can come in and just be that, you know, whether it's mentoring, it's someone coaching, regardless, it's someone exposing you to something that is different for you. And you can't expect to grow and develop and become greater than what you are if all you do is keep yourself in the same bucket of friends and associations. And so it's stepping out. It takes courage and deciding to say, this is for me. And so it's a commitment to yourself to say, I need someone else to essentially like take an empty cup, and you are that person that has this empty cup, to someone to help pour into my life so that I can grow, be better, and learn something that I don't know. And that's why it can be an evolving thing that goes on, because we're always at a place where we should be wanting to learn something and grow. And it will require us to expose ourselves to, whether it's a physical person, and if there's no one around in our circle, then I always say, go get a book. People that, this is before I was an author, I'd say people that wrote something had something to say, and it was worth them putting it down on paper, and someone published it. So let's go check out their mind and what they think about this. Does it mean you agree with all of it? No, but it does mean that it exposed you to a new way of thinking, and it caused you to think more critically and not just taking in the waves of what everyone's saying and not really having your own position on anything. It's recognizing, again, how to think and expose yourselves to different points of view.
How popular is your point that we need to work hard? Like, how popular is this?
In construction, it's why it's in capital letters. It's the utmost of importance, because you have to show up and you have to work super hard in this industry, and people know immediately when you're that person comes with an attitude that is going to put in the work. And I can say that for many years, I was on a crew. I wasn't the person that knew how to do all these particular things in an efficient way sometimes, but I knew that no one could outwork me. I knew that I could go and show up and get some direction on, okay, here's what we need to achieve today. Here's our goals for the day, and figure out a game plan and work really hard to get it done, and wasn't afraid of hard work. I had a father still alive that showed that to me every day, showing up and putting in your best. And you're not doing it for a paycheck. You're doing it because that's the job that needs to get done, and you get rewarded later with the paycheck. So it's the mindset that you have about work, and you have to have that thing on the inside of you that drives you to say, I'm going to put in everything that I have to my job, and whatever that may be. And people see that. people recognize that when the person shows up to come to work and to work hard and not trying to get by, not trying to cut corners, not trying to hide and think that you're not being seen. And so, and it's not something that is, I can't say that everyone comes to the job with that mindset, that working hard is important and stop talking and go to work. And I remember having to share as a superintendent, there's a guy that would talk all the time. He said, I don't have a problem with you talking, but I need you to work at the same time. And you're not being able, you can't do both. So which one do you think you're going to do that's going to keep you here, right? So it's kind of like, okay, get to work, right? And really understanding that you're not going to let anyone distract you from what provides you with your livelihood. And again, recognizing that working hard ethic and mindset really does get rewarded, and people see it. And it speaks volumes to your bosses and those folks who have influence for what happens next in your career.
It's so interesting because exactly what you said, you're working hard to prove that you're an asset, right? You're working hard to prove that I deserve a spot here. I deserve to stay here. I'm going to help you out. I want to swing back for a second, though, because you had mentioned something earlier about you were 19 when you started in the industry. I was 19 when I started in the industry as well, so I'm naturally curious. How did you get your start here? How did you find your way into construction? What did that look like?
Yeah, my dad he's a retired sheet metal worker. He actually owned a sheet metal company for about a decade, and he was the one that I would say encouraged me to take the test. And I had no intention. I was going to going down the path of, at that time, to be an engineer, and was going to school and plowed my way through that. And he had kept just kind of nudging me, hey, you should take the test. And finally, he put it in a way that just made sense. Like, take the test, because at the end of the day, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. So how did I argue against that? It's just like, it doesn't really hurt you to go take a test and decide, no, I don't want to do it. So I took the test and ultimately got my call and said, okay, we have a job, like right now. You got to make a decision. You're going to quit school, you're going to quit working at your retail store, and you're going to change your life and start going to work literally the next week. And thought about it shortly because I didn't have a lot of time to think about it. And I made that decision. And I jumped in, and pre-apprentice for just a short amount of time and worked my way through the trades. And it was rough. I thought I made the wrong decision several times, actually, from some of the folks I worked around, some being the young guy, not having a bunch of people that look like me, hardly anyone, and just not overall encouraged about thinking like, what am I doing? I'm never gonna. And then as I turned out to journey level, being laid off, probably first all the time, and just became, again, discouraged, but ultimately stuck through it. Had a few people that I ran into across the industry that encouraged me at different times to stick it out. And like they were kind of speaking to me and knew what I was going through. Maybe there was a look on my face, I don't know. But ultimately, they encouraged me, and I stuck it out. And many other stories later, but thankfully did follow their advice and found my place. Not just this being a job going in and out, but really becoming a career and learning the tricks of the trade, no pun intended, to really understand how to navigate through this industry successfully. And find myself in positions to influence others and help other people. So it's been an amazing journey. I could never tell you, looking back, that I would have thought this would be where I'm at, writing a book about it, being on different associations and chairing different committees in construction. Would have never, ever thought this would be my story. But it took me making a decision and then surrounding myself with people that really stretched me and helped me and exemplify some of the things that I wanted to be and didn't even know it yet. So it's been a great story. It's my story. It's real, and the book is just a way of saying, hey, if I can do it, so can you. And I'm going to help you some keys that I think are important.
I like that through that you've got this story of grit, having to hang in there a bit and kind of see through some of the hard times. You diverged from maybe the standard road where people would have been, oh man, you could have been an engineer type of, but now you've gotten to this place, and one of your points is to love what you do. So play that in. So you had this story of, well, I had to hang in there. It took some grit, but love what you do. So how does all that play together?
That's a great kind of tie into all of this for sure. And yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that. And yeah, I've always loved work with my hands. That's the thing that I think my dad can say, here's why I think it's good for you. He always gave me stuff to tinker with. I'm helping him with fixing cars and all these different things. I just enjoyed working with my hands. I didn't tie it into a career at that time. And I think I still loved the installation part and the learning and the trades early on, even though I didn't care necessarily about going to work every day, because it was the people. It was the people that made it hard for me. And because, you think, in construction, everyone's have to be some old crotchety guy that's just mad at the world, and he happens to be your boss, right? And I ran into those. Those were many of my bosses every day, right? Just every day I'm inundated with somebody who's not happy about their life. And they're going to make all of us unhappy. Our whole crew, we would spend our lunchtime complaining about the boss that's unhappy because he's never satisfied with us. But when I really got connected to, again, my purpose in this business and having an opportunity to influence, even the first time I was a foreman on the job, just getting around people that supported, people that challenge you. Some of them were still the old crotchety guys, but they still were like there to support. It just became a thing for me to recognize, if I could get myself in position to just do the job I need to do, work super hard, show up every day, continue to glean from those leaders, and then apply those things, and find myself having favor with different people that gave me opportunity. Then I got into a position where I was able to impact how jobs went, the culture. I was able to establish and help support a culture that I know is conducive to to being safe, and also to being productive and challenging. But also, I didn't have to be a jerk to get that, that whole productive mindset to work with. I didn't have to. I can take away the stereotype and status quo of what it means to be a general superintendent and scream and yell. That's how, instill fear, and begin to tap into that, and then coming to work for a company like Southland. That's what we do. It's what we support, is what we're going to train you and teach you how to do. And so I found that kind of that perfect relationship in marriage and work, where I got a company that says, hey, we want you to be the best you can be, and we're going to give you some tools. And I had never seen that before to this degree. And I said, I can do that. I know the fundamentals of how to do the job, but the people part was always missing. And so being able to get with a team that actually promoted how important people were in our industry, that we built buildings with people, and relationships are key and critical to what we do. Hey, we want you to do that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? So it became such an easy thing. It doesn't mean we don't, we have our challenges and have all the different things. It's still construction. It's still a workplace that's very stressful. But it's the people here we're going down the same path. We're trying to create environments that are counterintuitive to the things that we've experienced in this industry regarding how people are treated. We're trying to give people opportunities. We're trying to extract the best minds and ask questions of our team. The boss doesn't have to be the one that knows everything. So this is whole collective of thoughts, and being a part of different associations that support that I'm a part of, that just promotes that kind of behavior. It was easy to begin to love the work and love to show up and give your best and put in your time even after work, and thinking about how you're going to make this job better, or how you're going to help a foreman that is his first time and they're not sure and go back. I can go back and say, hey, that was me. And here's what I did, take it or leave it, but just offer support. And it was easy to essentially fall in love with that because that is how I'm wired. So the construction, the work part was the easy part. It was the people that made it very challenging. And when I was able to get into a place where I can affect the people and be a part of that dynamic of really transforming how we show up every day, and it just became again, that labor of love. And every day was like, okay, I may not be running a project anymore, but now I can influence some people, and how they go home to their families, I can affect how that looks for them and feels for them now. When they're commuting home and they're pissed off, they don't have to wonder, what does Henry think? They're always going to know because I tell them. And I'm like, I'm a man of my word. I'm going to tell you what I think. If I don't think you're doing the job you should be doing, I'm going to tell you. But I'm going to tell you in a way that respects you. I don't have to make you feel small because I'm cool at who I am, and I don't need to make myself feel better by making you feel bad. So all those kind of things that, again, they can be easily glossed over. But when we actively do that, it really does make a difference. And it's what I wanted to have when I was coming up, and when I was able to influence and be that person to create that was like the match made in heaven for me with construction and being able to essentially say, here's the legacy that I want to leave. I want to be able to say this. We don't have to do work this way. We don't have to have people overly stressed in an already stressful environment. We don't have to add to the calamity in their lives. We want to be the assets for them too. And so they want to show up and give us the best every day. And it's always a work in progress, but it definitely makes more sense than creating the fear and creating the turmoil and all the other stuff that we just excuse as, well, this construction, suck it up.
I think it's so interesting that you went there with talking about people because that is something that we're constantly harping about on the show, is that it's a people business. It's people that build things at the end of the day, right? And so I think that leads us perfectly to our megaphone question. I have a hunch I might know what it is, but I want to tee you up for this. So if we gave you a megaphone in around 60 seconds to speak to the whole industry, what would you want to tell them? What would you want to say?
I would say to people that this industry has allowed and excused bad behavior to go on forever. And because of that, we have lost a lot of people and some who aren't very encouraged about being a part of it. Well, that's changing. And there are different people that we can look around, not just myself. Many, many people today are saying this industry is about people and we want to help people to be whole. We want you to show up in this industry and feel like you can give your best. We don't want to be the industry that allows and excuses behavior that doesn't promote the well-being. We want you to join us. We want you to be a part of this. We want you to bring your talents and gifts to the table and help this industry be better and accomplish these great buildings that we build or these roads that we pave, whatever it is that where you find yourself in construction, that there's a place for you. And you don't have to look and be like somebody else to do it. You can be you. Just bring your whole self to the job, show up, work hard every day, and do what you need to do to be successful, and recognize what you don't know so you can learn and grow every day.
I love it, man. Well, Henry, thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Tyler and Eddie.